It's another Thursday, and welcome to All Things Rex Worldwide. I'm your host, Rex Sikes, and you're watching All Things Rex. And my guest today is David Fagan. He is the former CEO of Guerrilla Marketing. He's a top talent agent from Beverly Hills, manager and publisher who is a mover and shaker in the world of marketing and helping people skyrocket or launch their careers. So, with that, I'm going to have David come up and we're going to welcome him to the show. David, hi. Welcome to All Things Rex. It's good to have you here. As a partner of Mo Rock in the Los Angeles Tribune, I want to welcome you and thank you for partnering with us to also bring up the Neuroscience Summit 2022. And we look forward to talking about that in the very near, while we have you here. But what I first want to do is would you tell the audience a little bit about your background?
Oh, wow. Well, where do you want me to start? I was born in Texas in 1970. No, I think a lot of people, when they get to know me, they kind of get to know me through the publishing and publicity world. But yeah, I started out in, sales, banking, real estate. I really didn't get into the publicity and publishing side of things until about 2007, 2008. I actually had my own radio show called Entrepreneur 101. It was syndicated through several different states. I was on every day, 12 p.m. through 1 p.m., kind of that lunch hour spot. But that grew into some big contracts with like Infusionsoft. I became the CEO of Guerrilla Marketing. I really got to ride the coattails of J. Conrad Levinson, an amazing mentor to me, really, changed my life. Between me and Jay and the Guerrilla Marketing co-authors, we sold 23 million books in 62 languages around the world. I think that's up to about 24 million now. Of course, Jay Levinson gets the credit for most of that. But, I broke out in my own, 2010, 2011. I bought a Beverly Hills PR agency, took it over, been around for 30 years, called the LCO by a man, Michael Levine. Levine Communication Offices. At that point in time, I kind of just bought myself a seat at the table. Michael was another mentor of mine. They had represented 58 Academy Award winners, 34 Grammy winners, and 43 New York Times bestsellers at that point in time. So kind of bought myself a seat at the table. We did everything from celebrity PR for people like, Paul Stanley of the band Kiss to the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Janine Turner from Cliffhanger and Northern Exposure, got to do events with like Eva Mendes. But as time went on, for those of you who live in California, making those 2 and 3 hour commutes every day on the 405 isn't as much fun. I started working from my sailboat more in 2016. And for the last 5, 6, 7 years, we were kind of on the cutting edge of work from home, if you will. So that's what we've been able to do, publishing, doing publicity. We have relationships with USA Today, New York Weekly. We've had clients in Forbes, Newsweek. So when people don't want to be the world's best kept secret, they come to us and we help them with their books and we help them with their interviews and their branding. And, we're a talent management agency first and foremost. So how's that as a quick 20-year bring together?
That was beautiful. That was really, really very, very beautiful. Okay. And I'm sure that our audience who's watching may have questions or they want to leave comments. Go ahead and like the show wherever you're watching it from. Ask questions. We'll put them up so that David can respond to them.
The typical 25-year overnight success, right, Rex? You know all about that.
All about that. That's I always say everyone. My thing is everyone's a 15-year overnight success unless you're an 8-year-old child. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because in Hollywood, if they need an 8-year-old child, they'll just go find one that's the best that they can get. But otherwise, everybody works a long, 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 hard time in order to get known.
Yeah.
But you've broken through. You're helping a lot of people do that, and that is awesome. And I'm sure that people want to know, that for themselves. And I got some questions I want to ask you. First off, let me ask you a little bit about Jay and Guerrilla Marketing. When that book was first published, and I have mine around here somewhere, I've got tens of thousands of books, so I was looking for it, desperately looking for it to try and
1984. Find it. First one was published in 1984.
But, it was considered, breakthrough at its time.
Yeah.
It was revolutionary. But let me ask you this: was that the PR, or was it truly revolutionary?
Well, probably neither. Jay was somebody who really believed in his book, and he did something that's probably more common today, but back then was very revolutionary. And that was anybody that really wanted to spread the word, he helped them. And a lot of people don't know this, but there were people who came to him, in the late 80s and said, hey, can we turn your book into these other languages? And he made it very easy for him to do that. And for those of you who might remember that time, this is the time that like the Berlin Wall's coming down. All of a sudden, there was all these entrepreneurs in the world. And the Guerrilla Marketing book kind of became that Bible for marketers. And they didn't have anything else. And one of the things that Jay was criticized in the beginning for several years is that his book was really basic. Some of the intellectuals kind of talked down on the Guerrilla Marketing book, but it was all of these places in, Eastern Europe and, other places as communism fell around the world, the Guerrilla Marketing book, because it was so easy, because he had such an ability for making complex things simple, it really took off. And, there were times in the 2000s, 2007, 2008, 2009, when I was coming around where he would go to these countries in Eastern Europe. I get the chills just thinking about this. And the police motorcades would just come right up to the plane. And he would just be like, what's going on? Like, well, they're here for you, Jay. And people had lined the streets, people that were now millionaires and even billionaires, 20 years later, lined the streets. And it was like billboards were like, Metallica, Oprah, and Jay Levinson. Wow. And he drove through the streets and they just gave him this reception like no other. But it was because when the wall fell and they could do what they wanted to do and have their own businesses, and they wanted to look for affordable, out-of-the-box marketing, that Guerrilla Marketing book, of course, guerrilla just means unconventional, really spoke to them. So it's because of him not worrying about the money and not trying to make a deal, but really helping others turn that book in and release it in other places, that it really took off so much, I think.
Well, that's beautiful. And it also belies the fact that when you're helping other people, serving other people, helping uplift and edify and help them accomplish their goals, you actually win, and you can win big. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I remember that at that time, I mean, the movie business, music business, publishing business was a very different world than it is today. It was, in the 70s, when I first started in the movie business, I could walk into anybody's office and go, I'd like to read, or I'd like to meet you. I met the big people. I would walk in. I was producing when I was 23, so it was easy at one time too. Then everything shut down. It was, you can send a picture or a resume, but don't call, don't phone, don't show up, don't do anything. Then it was only an agent can submit your picture and resume. Don't you submit it, because it'll go in the, the circular file cabinet kind of thing. And I mean, and so then it became primarily, you always had to have an agent or a manager, but then you really needed an agent or a manager who could pull for you, because if they couldn't get you auditions. Well, the same in publishing. I mean, you had the big conglomerate book publishing companies, and you had to get a writer's agent or representative, and then, there was always a music business the same way. And then it all kind of changed. It suddenly became democratized in many ways. And now people could do what they couldn't do before. And what I think about Jay's book was, at that time, even though there was still some of the remnants of like the old guard, I mean, it was still going on, was it gave people the opportunity to do things for themselves that they didn't understand they could have done for themselves prior to that. And when you say it's kind of basic and people talked it down, it's usually the basic things that stand the test of time. If you just master the basics, you end up becoming a master of something. And what happens, I find, in so much, is that people want to get all the advanced stuff, but then they never really get good at anything.
Yeah.
So how has the business changed that's made it even more? I mean, it's made it more people can do more things. They can come to you, they can be published, they can be represented. They have avenues that didn't exist 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I've been on the Today Show. I've been on Fox News, Fox and Friends. I've just been on tons of shows, and I've never had somebody come to me and say, "David, we'd love to interview you, and because you make complex things more complex." You know,
right.
A true master, a true expert has the ability to make complex things more simple, and that's what Jay Levinson did. And, you know, it was a lot of fun being around him. You know, I have a lot of conversations sitting out on the back porch, you know, and he would tell the coolest stories. Maybe we'll get to share some of those stories today.
Yeah, please.
But the world has changed a little bit in the sense that, you know, back in the late 2000s, when I wrote my first book, you know, there was maybe a couple hundred books that came out, you know, every month, right? And, you know, when me and Jay co-authored our book together, I think it was 2009, as a part of the Guerrilla Marketing series, you know, maybe a couple hundred books. Now, Rex, there's about 4,000 books being put up every day, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 books every day, right? Now, some of these are small books and they're ebooks and whatever, but the point being is that the earth has really been flooded with content and books. So yeah, can we all get books out a little bit easier? Yes. But not all books are created equal. Right. And I would even say that good is no longer good enough. You know, there's kind of the expression, hey, just get it done, get it out of there. Good is good enough. Well, nowadays, just having a book is good. But a lot of people have a book. You and everybody else has a book. So is it a best-selling book? What kind of best-selling book is it? Who's reading it? Where's it getting to? You know, what kind of media are you getting? How are you converting that into opportunity? So, you know, some challenges have been solved while new ones have been created, you know, and to be a disruptor or to be on the cutting edge, which is what guerrilla marketing is all about in a lot of ways. There's new ways to do that. Maybe it's an audiobook, maybe it's a workbook, maybe it's a digital flip book, right? Maybe it's a book that leads into a course. So there's a lot more strategy needed now, because even though books are easier, the competition is much greater. And I don't mean competition in the old sense of that. I just mean that, you know, we only have so much time. Right?
There's so much noise now.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it happened in the film business when people went, I can make a movie on my phone. Suddenly everybody was making movies. It's not the same kind of movie necessarily that people grew up with traditionally in Hollywood, or even when independence came out. Music business, the same kind of thing. Suddenly, and you know, that's why Louis C.K., when he first released his direct to the audience CD. Do you remember that? I mean, it was like 2000 something, 2006 or 8 or whenever it was. I don't remember. I mean, it was a huge thing because he cut out all the middle people. He was celebrity enough in order to have a following. He went, I'm putting out this CD, and they went to his website and they gave him cash. I mean, he made, you know, millions.
Yeah. No, that's very common. I mean, Imagine Dragons, they do a lot of music. He does the main singer's just cutting it in a bedroom in his house, you know. Taylor Swift put out an album during the shutdown, and she just kind of was, you know, had her own little recording studio, and it just, boom, straight upload to Spotify and everything else. So yeah, you see big and small stars alike being able to do a lot with very little.
Oh, that's great. I mean, it equals the playing field, so more people can get in. It doesn't mean that everybody that gets in is quality. It just means that there's more stuff. But that said, too, and again, I'll relate it to the movie business. There are a lot of big stars, celebrities, who they want to open movies. Mm-hmm. And because they put butts in theater seats, or they get you, you know, to sit home in front of your computer. That's what stardom really is. They're soap salespeople in between the, you know, the show is just in between the commercials, essentially. And it's designed, you know, it's because it's a business, it's a cash business. So there are a lot of famous people who are not necessarily the best actors. A lot of famous musicians who are not necessarily the best singers or players, but they're famous. A lot of speakers or authors who are not really that good of a speaker or an author, but they're famous. They are known. Yeah. So there are going to be some people who, I don't want to be famous. I don't care. I just want to be the best at what I do. Or maybe I do want to be the best kept secret because I'd rather work with an intimate crowd. Mm-hmm. And then there are those people who go, you know what, I would sell my soul if I could have 20 million followers on YouTube. Yeah. So what say you in terms of of how, like for your agency and things like that, how do you assess whether or not you want somebody to be a client? They come to you, you go, this person's got a lot of potential, but they're good, or this person's got a lot of potential, I can turn them into a star, but they have, they're not really, they don't have the chops.
Yeah. Yeah, look, you got to have some level of talent out there for sure. But I would answer the question with this question. And it's a couple of rhetorical questions. And you're going to kind of get the answer pretty quickly. But to make the impact, let me just ask it anyways. First one, which book sells the most copies, the most well-written, the most Oxford Dictionary, well put together, or the best marketed book? Right? What real estate agent makes the most money? The one that's been doing it the longest, the one that has the most diverse team, or the best marketed real estate agent? What chiropractor makes the most money? The one that has the most fancy education, that has the most degrees hanging on the wall, or the best marketed chiropractor? It's always the best marketed. So you're absolutely right, Rex. There are a lot of people who aren't necessarily the best, but they were the best marketed.
Right.
Look at the show American Idol. I've got a lot of connections there, and that show changed a lot of lives, and a lot of these competition shows changed a lot of lives, because what it does is it gives these talents the chance for marketing, right? The chance for exposure. And matter of fact, that's one of the things that I ask the talent when I'm interviewing them. Would you make more money if you were more influential? Would you make more money if you had more credibility? Would you make more money if you got more exposure? That's kind of my ICE acronym, right? ICE. That ICE acronym has been changing a lot of lives and making people a lot of money, because it is that shift to the game that's being played of influence, credibility, and exposure. And a lot of times it is the best marketed, which is hard for artists, because we have a lot of healers out there, and painters and sculptors and, photographers, and they just care about the picture, they just care about the image. They just care about the individual. And that's great if that's what truly fulfills you. But we want to help people find both. And sometimes we have to be a business person first and kind of the artist second. So it's like, are you a business person who just happens to take pictures, or are you a photographer who's trying to run a business? One of those does better than the other. I'll let you kind of guess which one it is.
Oh, that's a fantastic answer. And for our viewing audience, we have down below, it's not scrolling at the moment, it's scrolling David T. Fagan, who he is and what he does. But now there it is. It's toptagency.com. So, and while you're here and while we're live, if you've got questions for David, please go ahead and type them out so that we can ask while he's on the air. We're going to shift our focus in a little bit to talk about this upcoming summit that David and the Los Angeles Tribune are partnered now together to put on the Neuro Summit 2022. And it's an exciting event coming up not that far from now. It's coming up on the 20th to the 23rd of October.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robert. We appreciate that. 20th to 23rd of October. It's got some amazing names and lots of speakers. So we're gonna talk about that too. But before we do, I really like your answer, and I think that people who are you in the market for clients?
Yeah, we're always looking for more talent. We have media sources like the Tribune, USA Today. They're always coming to us. People like finding agencies that have already kind of been through the interview process and they already have a pool of talent. It's a lot easier for them than trying to keep all these random people around. If they can just have an agency that represents a bunch of people, they'll come to us and say, hey, we're doing a story on such and such. We need to quote someone. We need to interview someone. So we're always looking for, people to add to our pool of talent as speakers, as experts, as people who want to be interviewed or even maybe write articles or content. Absolutely.
So as to not inundate you with a lot of people just going, yes, I'm interested. Well, do you have a criterion or a vetting process? Or
yes. Yeah. No, that's a great question. Yeah. There's a lot of people that probably aren't quite ready for us. We are probably, we're not the most expensive around, but we're definitely not the cheapest either. And, what we do is pretty high level. Here's the thing though, that really matters more than anything else. Do you have proof of concept, right? Do you have a working business model? So there's three things that we look at to know if you have this working business model. One, do you have a product or service to sell? Just yes or no. You got a product or service to sell. Number two, are you making a profit off of that product or service you're selling? Just yes or no. And then number three, are people so happy with your product or service that they're giving you testimonials and referring you business? If you can say yes to all three of those things, you've got a working business model, you got proof of concept. Now it's open the floodgates. Let's get you as many clients as we possibly can. If you don't have a way to make money or monetize your talents, your experiences, then sometimes we can take a step back and help you do that. But the people that are going to go the fastest and the furthest with this are people that have already figured out kind of the money side of things. How do you monetize your knowledge and experiences and talents?
Oh, that's a beautiful answer. Beautiful. So if you're one of those people that he just described, then you're going to want to contact David. And if you're not one of those people, maybe you will be someday soon, when we can hope. And as he said, maybe, there's some help for you. Let's just talk about this. The model of today is a little bit different than the model of the old days, and differs from, say, Hollywood in the sense that
sure,
when people go to an agency in Hollywood to be an actor, they don't pay to be an actor. They give their agent a commission of their salary. But today, sure, with publicists and other and managers and different things, in some cases, it's pay us a fee up front.
Yeah.
And then we deliver the service.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. So to differentiate and understand the true differences, there's two major C's. There's creating, and then there's campaigning. Some clients are already ready to go campaigning, and so there's probably less money up front, and a good agent can even, share in some of the things that happen. Where a lot of the money exists nowadays is in the creating side. We need to create the book. We need to create the PowerPoint. We need to create the marketing kit, create the pictures, right? We need to create the brand. Maybe we need to create the course, right? We got to create the website. So there's a lot of creating for a lot of people that helps them become media worthy. Ask yourself the question, are you media worthy? Are you stage worthy? Are you show worthy, TV worthy, movie worthy? We work with some other, big agencies like UTA, United Talent Agency, CAA, and they have departments that not a lot of people understand. There's a scripted department, there's a non-scripted department. In the non-scripted department, that's where you're going to find talk shows, documentaries, reality TV. Scripted, that's going to be all your fictional kind of stuff where it's a lot more acting. Now, that doesn't mean that reality TV isn't scripted. It doesn't mean there isn't probably some acting involved there. That doesn't mean the talk shows aren't probably a little scripted, but there are these departments. And so to kind of break through, there's only so many opportunities that are involved. Sometimes we need to create things. So people will pay us to create the book, create the brand, create the product, maybe create the website, create some of these things. Now, some other people will come to us, they'll be like, David, I've got it all. Like Rex, you got it all, right? You got a book, you got a brand, you got a show, you got all these things to give to people and places to send them. It's like, you just need to see more opportunities, right? So those are two different people with two different scenarios. We can help both, but it's the people that need more creating in the beginning that might need to invest more in themselves.
Well, and to be fair, in the movie business, you may go to an agent and you go out on a job and you pay them 10% of what you make, but you're doing acting classes and you're paying for those. You're getting your headshots, you're paying for those. You're getting your wardrobe, you're paying for that. You're getting a website developed because now you need a website as an, you're so, you're paying anyway. So whether you're paying, to have something created or to have something campaigned, there's always going to be some form of exchange.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of what we saw and what we did, and that's why we brought a lot of our stuff in-house, because the way the conversation went 15 years ago as I kind of pivoted into this business more, it was like, oh, I'm waiting on my graphic designer. Oh, I'm waiting on my photographer. Oh, I'm waiting on my ghostwriter. And everybody was kind of pointing fingers. So we brought a lot of that stuff in-house a long time ago, working around the time with Jay Connor Levinson. So as we brought on talent, it was like, no, we got it. We got you. Okay, here's my guy, here's my girl, let's do this. And that way we had more control over our own destiny.
Well, and that is such a fair point, because I think most artists, just what you said, is everybody's waiting for something. And that is that if there's one thing that slows the whole process down, it's that one cog. I got to get my headshots and they haven't delivered them, or I got to do this. I haven't. So if they can go to a one-stop shop and get it all kind of done for them, it really speeds the process up. And then they get to be out there sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So very cool. That's awesome. And what is he? It's interesting business philosophy. Keep as many things in-house as possible, and this reduces excuses. Huh?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, people want to hold me responsible for results, and that's fair. We all need to hold people responsible for results. So, I don't want to have everything in-house. It's a lot to do, but we try to pick some of the bigger positions and some of the bigger projects and bring those in-house, just so that we can have control and so that we can be responsible to our clients for the results that they expect.
And you're working with some pretty other powerful agencies and opportunities. I mean, you mentioned.
Sure. Yeah. Other businesses, other entrepreneurs, we refer business like everybody else. We get a lot of referral business from other people. And the bigger it gets, it does get a little bit more, niche. I mean, this. I mean, the documentary world is way different than reality TV, and reality TV is way different than, sweeps, and, it's new season time, right? It's just a whole different world. Even streaming, has changed the game so much, and I don't need to tell anybody that. We all kind of know that. The question is now, how do we leverage that? What are our goals? And that's the thing that a lot of people struggle with a little bit. And the most talented people, that talent is almost a curse, because they can do so many things. Some of these people, it would be better if they could only do one or two things, right? Even me or you, Rex. I mean, we feel like we want to do all, we want to write books, and we want to speak on stage, and we want to. It would almost be better if it was like, this is all you can do, man. Just go do this. Put everything you got into this.
Well, you make a good point, David. It's that old saying, a jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
To be able to master one thing, be good at that, and be known for that.
Yeah.
Can be, and then you can diversify, but at least get the one thing first, right?
Yeah. And that's the trick we help people with is, finding that common thread throughout everything that they do, because people are multidimensional beings, right? We really are more than any one thing. And one of the things that, Jay and me spoke of, 10, 12 years ago was this kind of period of sort of the Renaissance. One of the meanings of Renaissance is rebirth. Right. And, when we think of Renaissance, we might think of a Leonardo or a Michelangelo, and they weren't any one thing, right? They were a philosopher, they were a mathematician, they were an astrologer, right? Maybe they were a sculptor. So for the last 30, 40 years, when somebody does and exceeds and excels at multiple things, they'd say, oh, you're a Renaissance man, or oh, you're a Renaissance woman. And this is an exciting day and age to be in, because 20, 30 years ago, it was like, well, you're a waitress. All you can ever be is a waitress, or you're a mechanic. All you'll ever be is a mechanic. But nowadays, more than ever, we're being given permission to be, hey, I can be a musician. I can be a businessman. I can be a painter. I can have my own show. I can run something out of the garage. Steve Jobs, look at everything he did. iTunes to Apple to Pixar, right? Elon Musk, look at everything he's doing now. So the world is more accepting of that multidimensional individual, as long as there's that kind of common thread through what you do.
That's a beautiful answer, David. Let me just shift a little bit back to something you said, because I know there are people watching. If they're not watching live, they're going to watch the replay. And if you're watching live or in the replay, be sure to share the show out. Be sure to leave comments. If you're live here, you can still ask questions, and I appreciate the comments we've had so far. But there are people, there are experts, there are doctors, there are attorneys, there are people from all walks of life. I used to do a lot of TV consulting, when they were crime or trials, famous trials, things like that. They would call me to consult on these things. There are people who have an area of expertise, and they probably are going, hey, I would like to be on a news show, even if it's my local news show, much less, a national show. But that is an avenue that you make available or help people make available too. If they have an expertise, they can get on the kind of talk shows and whether radio, TV, or streaming.
Yeah. If you go to our website, toptagency.com, and it's Top Talent Agency, we specialize in publishing, publicity, and production, show production. I've had my own cable TV show in California called The Hollywood Entrepreneur that went out to millions. It was celebrity business news. We literally taught people entrepreneurialism through the good things and bad things that celebrities did. It's fun, it's entertaining. And, I've done that. We've produced several different shows. Allison Larson had her own show. There's a lot more networks that are growing. There's streaming wars. So like Bernardo Moya of Best You TV, he has a platform. James Dentley of JD3 TV, he has a platform, so on and so forth. So, there are more and more platforms, and these places need content. And, so we can help people create shows and develop shows as well. And there's lots of ways to monetize that nowadays. It's not just sponsorships and advertisers. It can be product placements. It can be the naming rights of your studio. Again, need that talent, but shows is another way to do that. And just one last thing, just so that everybody kind of understands this. It used to be, Rex, you get this really well. But someone like Ava listening right now, this might be new to her, but things changed a lot because it used to be, hey, we have so many pages in our newspaper. So people were competing to have the best content in that paper. Or, hey, there's only 60 minutes on this news show. So they're competing to like, what's going to make the lineup? Well, now that we've gone online, we have an unlimited amount, right? So places like the Los Angeles Tribune, they're coming to me going, David, we need more content. We need more articles. We need to interview more people, right? USA Today, David, we need more. It's got to be good. It's got to be good content. But there's an unlimited need for it, right? And the more content they can get online, the more they pop up in the search engines, the more people they're helping, the more people they're touching. So once you understand the streaming wars and the need for content, you become the solution, not the problem. Right? It used to be like, oh, here's somebody else nagging me. Well, if you know what to do and how to do it, if you know who to approach, there's people who want your content. As long as you can make it good, there's people who want that content because they need it to get more out there, right? Huffington Post is just a ton of content. Thank you, Rex.
That is such a beautiful description of what's going on and what's needed and how people can contact you for that very thing. As somebody who's slightly older than you are, by a few minutes, maybe. I grew up with the 3 networks and syndicated channel. There's 13 channels on the dial, and one of them was UHF. Who nobody knew anything about, and so you could literally know you could keep in your head all the shows that were in prime time from Monday through Sunday, and all of the actors who were in them. And set out your whole week of TV viewing. And now with hundreds of channels and hundreds of shows and hundreds of streaming things and off not television, but online. I sit there and go, I used to know all the actors in TV. Now people mention these names. I've never heard of them. I've never heard of the show. I don't know anything about them. So what you point out so well is that there is so many avenues for so much production, so much quality content, and so many ways to get there that if you know how to do it, or you have someone like yourself, David, or your company, Top T Talent, helping people to get to the right people with the right content, you're connecting people up, but with both resources. It's a win-win for everybody. They get the content they need, and the person who's delivering the content gets to be the deliverer, and the person who's creating the content be the creator, and they all win.
Yeah. Do you, should we demystify why shows get canceled and picked up elsewhere? This is my party trick, by the way, Rex. Like I'll be at parties like, oh, my favorite show got canceled, but I think so-and-so is going to pick it up. It's like, well, if so-and-so was going to pick it up, why didn't this network just get it? A lot of people don't understand, but the key to understanding why shows get canceled in one place and picked up elsewhere is right in what you said, Rex. There is not 3 now, but there are 4 big networks out there: ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, right? Those networks are driven by sponsors and advertising dollars. And when they sell it to a sponsor, when they sell it to that advertiser, they say, hey, we're going to get you 25, 30 million people viewing our show. That's what we get. So what happens is if they have a show that comes out and only gets 10 million viewers, it's not good enough for them. But Hulu, they only need 7, 8, 9, 10 million viewers. And it's a good show for them because they're telling their advertisers, hey, I'm going to have 10 million viewers for you, right? I'm going to have 10 million, da-da-da-da. So that show that didn't get 30 million might get 10 million. Now, Hulu might not pick it up, but then you got the Learning Channel and you got the Discovery Channel. A good show on that network might only be 2 or 3 million viewers, might only be 1 million viewers, right? So they could pick up a show that only has 1 million viewers, and it's a really good show for them. So people get kind of thrown off like, well, why is this show here and not there? And, Pawn Stars, it's this big rage, but it only has a couple million viewers. Well, that's all that network needs is a couple million viewers. So you have to ask yourself when you're doing your own show, how big do you want to play? Can you get the millions and tens of millions of viewers? Now, Tony Robbins, he doesn't do anything small, right? A lot of people don't realize this, but Tony Robbins said, no, I'll only go on one of the 4 big networks. I'm summarizing here a little bit, but he went on a big network. After 2 episodes, his show was canceled. It was canceled because on that big network, he's not getting 15, 20, 30 million views. Now, he could have chosen to go to another network, but he's like, not worth my time. Again, I'm paraphrasing here. I don't know what his exact words are, but basically he didn't move forward with it. So again, the idea is, are you okay with only 5 million viewers? Are you okay with a network with 1 million viewers? For some of you, that may be good. For some of you might be holding out for the big one. But Rex, me and you, we can kind of demystify this whole thing for people, can't we?
Oh, we certainly can, and we certainly ought to do that. We'll have to do it at another time.
Sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
No. I absolutely appreciate that, and I really do love it. People need to understand that it's a business above and beyond everything else. I mean, I do a show called Rex Sikes Movie Beat, which is what to do and what not to do in the movie business, and I taught at the university. It was how to navigate a career, because people just think what you said earlier. They want to be the artist, but they don't know how to have a career. And you see that, and that's what my point in Hollywood. A lot of the people, the best people, are not the best actors, but they knew how to do what they needed to do in order to get to where they were at, or they had some team behind them to help them get. And most everybody has a team at some point behind them that helps them get there. But it's not just by being great. Sometimes that works, but you can be the greatest thing and no one can know your point.
So much of this is rigged. And when people hear the word rigged, it's a trigger to them. And so I like to say the word rigged because it gets their attention.
Sure.
But it's not rigged in a bad way per se. It's just rigged in the sense that there's a formula, there's an algorithm, and all these New York Times bestselling books, they're just rigging the system, right? And nothing wrong with that. It's just they know what it takes. And I have people that can go out and do that, and for at least $1 million. I have some people that are spending $3, $4, $5 million. I'm not claiming them as my clients. I'm just saying I'm a part of that process, and I know these people where they're spending millions. And even then, there's no guarantee to be a New York Times best-selling book. The point is nobody is just out there writing a book and, oh, look, everybody loved it. It's a New York Times bestseller. No. There's a whole marketing machine. There's a whole infusion of capital and money that's being spent. And nowadays, if you want to go to the big publishers, it doesn't take good writing. They want to know that you already have a base. What's your base? You have to sell them. You write a prospectus, right, for the bigger publishers, the traditional publishers. And basically what you've got to say is, hey, essentially, I don't need you. It's kind of like credits, right? It's like the people who get credit are probably the ones who don't need it as much, right? So it's like, I got all this money. Now you're going to give me credit. It's the same thing with the traditional publisher. You're going and saying, hey, I've got this massive Instagram following. I got this massive email opt-in list. I've got this massive LinkedIn, Facebook. Hey, here's some letters from some, Grant Cardone and some other big names, Ryan Dice. And they said they would send out an email for me when my book came out. That's what the publishers want. They want to bet on a sure thing, right? They want to know how many books you're going to buy. They want to know how you're going to infuse capital into that campaign. They want to know that you already have a built-in following, which if you had that, guess what? Why do you really need the traditional publisher anyways? Well, that's a question for another day, but the system is somewhat rigged nowadays for TV, movies, books, everything. And you just got to know how to play the game.
So we're going to have to take a break in a moment and run a spot for the Tribune, but I want to kind of follow up on that. I argue, correct me if I'm incorrect. I used to say that breakthrough, what you just described, happened first in the publishing industry. Then it happened in the movie business and the music business, the movie business, and everything. Years ago, and I don't know if I've shared this on the show before, I have good friends at William Morris Endeavor, and I was sitting there one night with my family. We were hanging out, sitting on the floor, doing stuff, and my friend goes, "See the guy down there?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "He's farming YouTube for players that, videos that have like 1 million hits or more."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, for what purpose?" He goes, "Well, they want to make a movie with the people who have the highest hit ratio." I was like, "Really?" Yeah. This was 2013 at least. I mean, back then. And then that was kind of old news by 2013. But the point was if you've got a platform, if you got tens of thousands of millions of followers, they can cash in on that. They know that if your friends and followers are going to buy your book, then they don't have to work that hard. So you bring up a really good point. I don't know if it did really start with the publishing industry, but then it seemed that was the way I recall it.
Yeah. No, look, there's certain people that just have such a name, they're talented, but they have such a name, they can just do it. I mean, Adele could sing the phone book and I would just, I would buy the album, she could just write down the A's and B's. And, Matthew McConaughey did a book not too long ago. Right. And I don't even know if it really qualifies as a book, but, he's a known celebrity. He's a known entity. People are very curious about his life. He just kind of randomly tells you these stories, right? And, he's got that Texan voice and, you can kind of, he's probably fun on an audiobook. But I mean, he broke so many rules in writing in a book, but it doesn't matter. He's Matthew McConaughey, right? He has a base, he has a following, he has that celebrity effect. So the point being is us mere mortals, we kind of have to go by different rules. And nowadays, more music than ever is being launched on TikTok. Why? They have a following. They have a machine, right? We're always trying to guess what people like. Well, things like YouTube and TikTok, they take out the guesswork. You go to the record studios, you go to the publishing places, look at all the podcasting that's happening. You can go to these places and it's like, well, how do we know people want to hear from me? Well, I got 1 million followers. I got 10 million views. It's like, oh, okay. So, not only has the rules changed, literally the game has changed. Yeah. And there's more than one way to win at the game. And it's easier said than done, but you got to start where you're at, use what you have, and just do the best that you can with what you have to work with.
And very quickly, just to encapsulate, because then we'll take a break and then we'll come back. We'll talk about the Neuroscience Summit. But Amazon, Barnes and Noble, I mean, they all have certain tricks and tips and procedures and rules that either elevate your book or lose your book in the crowd. I mean, it's not, I'm just going to publish a book on Amazon and expect the best.
Well, Google and Amazon and Facebook and all these places, it's kind of like asking the German shepherds to guard the sandwiches. You're gonna get me a little fired up here, but you want to talk about a rigged system, and that's not a complaint. I'm just saying that these places have ways to make more money, and we're playing the book game, they're playing the information gathering game, and there's a lot of power and profits in having that information on all of us. So it's kind of apples and oranges, so to speak. But yes, you're absolutely right that every distribution center, which is what we would call that in the publishing world, there's different places that will distribute your books, kind of have their own set of rules. And, you've got to decide what you want to do. Just one really quick example. I'll sell ebooks on Amazon, but because most of my books are sold through me speaking and through my following and my interviews, I send them to my websites. Why? Because when they buy the book, then I get all their information, right? I know their name and their address and their phone number. And, someone orders 30 books, just happened last week. I can contact and be like, hey, I saw you ordered 30 books, love to sign some of these for you. Thank you. And they're like, oh yeah, we got a book club and our book club is doing your book. Now I know that, right? Now I can put them in a follow-up sequence. I can invite them to other things. Now I can be the Amazon with my own books, having the insider information. Now, for some people, that might be more a headache than what they want, sitting there, stuffing envelopes with their own books. They might just be like, here, Amazon, I'm going to give you all my books. You sell them. You send me my check. That's enough. The point being is that there's other value that happens in that purchasing process. And if you want to play a different game and follow up with these people that are buying things from you, there's opportunities for upsells and further relationships.
Wow. And that's why you want an expert working with you. And we have one right here. His name is David T. Fagan. You can find his toptalentagency.com. So be sure to connect with David that way. He's a presenter, a speaker, a publisher, and a master of many talents. And we're going to take a quick break for the Tribune. And when we come back, we'll talk about the Neuroscience Summit that's coming up October 20th through the 23rd.
Yes.
All right. Sure. Thank you, David.
Welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune page. Here you will find original news programming, exclusive digital events, and shows that are directly from the community. At the Los Angeles Tribune, we believe in giving a voice to the voiceless. We are proud to be the only national brand to empower everyday people to make a difference. Since 1886, our reputation has been built on truth and responsibility. Thank you for watching and making a difference.
For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
And we are back. And we're back with David Fagan. And I want to thank Mo Rock and the Los Angeles Tribune for making All Things Rex Worldwide absolutely possible. I also am very fond of Mo for this reason. Not only as the CEO and publisher of the Los Angeles Tribune, his vision has always been to do something other than just news, and that is to provide positive, inspiring, and motivational information to people all around the world and help them transform their lives. And in doing that, where shows like mine and other shows here on the Tribune, and we've done a couple of summits previously, and now the Los Angeles Tribune, Mo Rock, and us have partnered with Top Talent Agency, David and Isabel Fagan, to bring the Neuroscience Summit 2022 to the airwaves so that you can attend and you can learn from experts and the people who can help you transform the way you think, the way you feel, the way you behave, so that you can transform and live a better life. David, can you tell us more about this incredible summit and opportunity?
Yeah, it's really a brain health and brain wealth event. And, it used to be that although we knew certain things worked, we didn't really have the science to really support it. And, we did those things anyways. But more and more, there's kind of this science of the woo-woo, right? There's the science of the secret now. And there are a lot of neuroscientists that are in their own way coming around and saying, hey, this is kind of the way the brain works. And it's interesting that when we think about this or focus on that, things are happening, and we can prove it. And there's these studies and there's these case studies. Well, a lot of us in the self-improvement arena, we've known it for a long time. We can testify because it worked, but we didn't necessarily know, why it worked or how it worked. And so we're in a really fun day and age where those worlds are kind of coming together. And so, self-improvement nowadays is also starting to, play and run alongside these advances of neuroscience, quantum physics, in the ways that we think and feel and act. So as somebody who represents a lot of talent, we just told the Tribune, hey, if we ever wanted to do an event like this, we got the people. Let's bring these people to the rest of us. As you know, Rex, sometimes me, you, Mo, some of these other people, we have all these fun conversations. It's like, we got to share this with everybody, So that's what we're doing. Mark Waldman is considered by many to be Oprah's neuroscientist, from Time Magazine, New York Times. Andy Newberg, the co-author with Mark, that wrote some really famous books that have done really well. They're inside of this. Michael Beckwith is being honored in many ways. Joe Vitale, We just got a great lineup. And one of the ways to think about this is, what's the science of things? We could talk about the science of sales, the science of marketing, right? The science of relationships. What are the formulas that people use? So we really want to package a lot of this new wisdom, and maybe not new wisdom, but more recently backed and rediscovered science wisdom into a really fun event. So the conversations are going to be really cool. I thought I knew what the placebo effect was, but I really didn't understand the true power of it. I'm listening to these scientists, Jim Poole of Newcom, they've got this amazing technology, people listening to frequencies and vibrations and, patented technology. Tony Robbins uses it. Professional sports team uses it. They were just over at FBI Quantico doing training. And there's just so much cool science that's happening in this stuff. So anyways, we're bringing it all together. It's 4 days. We're going to interview these people. People can probably even ask, hopefully we'll have time to ask a little bit of questions here or there. But we want to bring to the world what these experts know. Jim Quick of Limitless, Dr. John DeMartini, Krista Johnson and, Isabel and Bernardo Moya. We just did the love event with him, several stars from The Secret, like Sharon Lecter and Bob Doyle, and man, the list just goes on and on. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, it's awesome. It is really, truly awesome. I would add that much of what neuroscience presents today has been around since ancient times.
Yeah.
And when I started my work back in the 70s, there was a literal handful of the placebo effect. And I was criticized in a book in the 90s, I think, because I said the whole point of the placebo effect is to make it conscious so that you can actually activate it in your biology to be able to benefit from it. They went, oh, this guy's a nutbag and he's a critic, a quack, don't pay any attention. Well, since those days when there were a handful of studies on placebo and visualization, imagination, and how it affects your health and the study of happiness, and there's over 45,000 studies now. Yeah. There's over 45,000 studies verifying what ancient people, new thought leaders in the 19th and 20th century, people like myself and others from all these decades have known, as you said, but didn't necessarily have the science. And what's amazing is oftentimes science is the last to come along, because the doctors poo-pooed the placebo effect for decades. They go, oh, that's a placebo, that's stupid, it's meaningless. And now, because of research and because of neuroscience investigation, more and more doctors are going, maybe we can use the placebo effect to help people heal, because the placebo effect never stops. It just never stops. I mean, people think about placebos, but it's the effect that's important. And so understanding how science has moved forward and moved the needle forward and has contributed to all of these different things is really, it's an amazing opportunity to come together with some really brilliant.
And if you're listening to this, you haven't even gotten a fraction of the answer. Don't think for 1 second like, oh, the placebo effect, we got it. No. Trust me. And the way that some of these people can display it, some of the examples and exercises they're so cool. They're so much fun. But there is some big things that we're going to bring in here that, like you said, at one point in time, it was like voodoo. It was pseudoscience. And it's interesting how pseudoscience just becomes science, right? Once you have the evidence, once you have the case studies.
Well, think about it. When the Wright brothers were trying to fly, it was the scientists and experts of the day who said, never gonna happen. But once they flew, they were all like, let's do it.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories is Bannister, right? There will be no 4-minute mile. There will be no 4-minute mile. All these people trying years and years and years. All these people try. All of a sudden, one guy does a 4-minute mile. A few weeks later, another person. A few weeks later, another person. Like the whole mentality just shifted. It was just like a whole different belief system. Oh, this is possible, right? Oh my goodness! Don't get me started on this, Rex. This is like we'll go
forever, and we have to end the show. Sadly, I could go on for hours with you, David. This has been fun, and you haven't yet mentioned the dog, and that it's an inside joke. So I've been waiting for David to come up with a dog answer for me. I have my girl dogs here, but at any rate, we'll have to explain the joke during the summit.
Okay, there we go.
But no, I really appreciate you being here, and this has been fabulous. And how can they sign up for the summit? That's the question that everybody's going to be asking.
Yeah, well, your ticker here against the bottom of the screen, register at nsciencesummit.com, and just do that. It's free. When you go there, it'll say referred by. Just put in Rex, REX, and we know that it came from this. It's always fun for us to track things. You got to track it to crack it, if you will. But yeah, nsciencesummit.com. Go in there, register, name, number, all that kind of good stuff. You'll get some other reminders, some extras. Even if you can't attend at all, you're going to want to make sure you get the recordings and everything. That registration will help you do that. Whatever you miss, you can still get access to it. And that's really the new definition of wealth nowadays is it's access, guys.
Hey,
yeah.
Can they upgrade? Is there an upgrade?
There is, but we don't really even share those things until they get into the registration process.
We got to get in first in order to find out what that's all about.
Yeah. And we don't want to overwhelm them with too much. But yeah, people who want more, people who want maybe more of a connection, maybe people who want to be more a part of something like this later on. But yeah, a lot of these guys are offering up some of their books and some of their materials. I know that we've got some free gifts, but the Tribune is always pretty good about getting these experts to, throw in some extras for everybody. So I know there's going to be some goodies for sure.
Yeah, we're going to have a blast. And I want to thank you and Top Talent for being partners with the Los Angeles Tribune. I want to thank our viewers who are watching now live and in replay for sharing out the show. Also, help us spread the word about the summit. It promises to be a really wild, good, productive, positive event. You're going to want to be there. And again, replay or live. And so don't miss out on an opportunity. Be sure that you sign up today. Share the show out, like it, leave comments. David, thank you so much. We're going to have to do this again, but I'll see you at the summit. But and again, Top Talent, talent from Top Talent and Top Talent from the Los Angeles Tribune.
Thank you.
You guys want to be there.
All right.
David,
thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Will you hang out and wait while I close out the show? And
Yes.
we'll see you in just a moment. Thank you so much.
Sounds good.
Wow. Imagine that. We've done an incredible almost hour with David Fagan, and we could go on for many other hours because he's a wealth of information and in terms of business and in terms of personal help and development. So I want to thank him. And again, I want to thank Mo Rock and the Los Angeles Tribune for making this possible. And I want to thank you, the viewers, the audience, the fans, and the people who write and tell us so much about how much you like the show and you like my guests. I really do appreciate that. And I love you and I thank you. I also am an author, of course, and I have a book that I want to tell you about because I always give away a bonus training with the book. You go to Amazon and you get my book, Life on Your Terms, Create the Life You Want, which is a blueprint, a step-by-step, easy to follow, bite-sized process for creating a fabulous life and thinking, feeling, and behaving the way you want and developing talents and skills along the way to skyrocket your success. So you order the book from Amazon, you take your receipt code, you go back to my website right down there below, rexsikes.com/book. You put in the receipt code for your soft cover or hardcover book, and I'll give you a training absolutely free. It's online. It's the Mastery Loop. This is how we master our skills, our emotions, anything you want to master. It's the process of how the brain actually works and how we learn to acquire new talents and abilities and to make whatever we want happen come true. So you're going to want to get the Mastery Loop. It's my gift to you. It's a $497 value. I'll give it to you absolutely free when you just follow the instructions there at rexsikes.com/book. All right. And with that, I want to again thank you. And I want to thank David Fagan for being here. And I want to thank you for sharing out the show and spreading the word about the summit. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Abba. Thank you, everybody. I want to thank you. And as I always say, if you consider something a problem, it will be a problem. And if you consider something a blessing, it will be a blessing. So it's how you think about it that truly, truly matters. And with that in mind, celebrate everything. I will see you next time with another fabulous guest.